Now let us implement the save feature so that the form adds some entry through React Redux. Okay, probably we need couple of actions and reducers in order to handle, because the changing are going to be there. So okay, just name it as an object. So this role, because I'm going to need set subject. So this will set individual values as the text input changes. So I have 3 and I need to modify the reducer a bit. Finally subject. So this reducers will do the individual value setups. So before doing it, we need to make sure couple of changes. So I'm going to need, first I don't modify the array length, whatever the array which is bringing. So I need to make sure the same array is being passed over. There's some name, I had to be unique, that's it. And return an object except let's extract roll number, sorry, ID, roll number, everything. Roll number and then subject. Except the name, we will pick the rest from the state. And show form set to true, we have to make sure this is visible still. And ID, which is coming from the state itself. The first name should be from the payload, and the roll number, whatever it is coming, and the subject. This is true for all. In this case, except the roll number, it's going to be first name. Okay, I think trouble because it's already declared. And I'll make it as a normal one. So for the same, we're just having a different value so that doesn't complain me. So it's going to be just accept the roll number. The roll number is going to have action payload. The same for subject. Make sure it is different. The subject should be from the payload. So now we have moved everything here. Let's go back to add edit. Do the same thing, deduct the changes as the user type on. So previously we were using state here, now we are not going to use the state. So we're just going to have the value. Because we already have the states changed to props. So this dot props. So one more time, verify the reducer. Yes, awesome. Okay, on change we are going to need a function of course we need a switch case. Roll number and subject. Okay, so whenever it comes, now we are going to require a couple of additional functions. action name set first name, something like this. Set row number, set subject. So we call it this dot props event target value. Subsequent functions we can call the respective block. We removed it, and of course we need to call this to all the input field. So this just one more time we'll verify it is ROLLMNU. So as user changes, okay, so we need to change the dispatch set first name, set roll number, set subject. These are all the function it is dependent on, and these functions being called, and the value is being set. Okay, so once it is done, then we can proceed with the save function. So on form submit. I'm missing the fat arrow sometimes. First part we need to call this dot mention event prevent default to make sure the form doesn't refresh. Then save student. I'm going to send the props whatever I have to this place. So now the reducer will receive, so the action was save student. Okay, that's what I have called. The save student will have a action type save student, save underscore student comes in the reducer. It comes over here. This is the place we are going to add an entry to our array. Okay, first part, let's get the values. We need to keep it unique, so also get the existing array. Okay, we'll also make sure if id equal to -1, then for add. So what we can do, roll number and finally the subject, so extract everything. updated array from the students add this object. ID mean this time we are going to generate so ID 3, this is the name we have given. I'm going to generate a random number to add a uniqueness to each record. So ID this entry will get added. Finally return the array. Once it is saved, we can return as the way we want. I want to make sure the form become invisible and value is emptied, and finally the updated array. Okay, I'll declare it over here. Okay, so it should be modifiable. Then emptied value is being sent. Let's see how it works. Also, I made sure the view all also iterate through a props. So if everything goes well, I should get the form entry added as expected. Create. See the state changes. Added. When I click on save, the forms. Okay, I think we haven't called the form yet. So, okay, on submit. This will make sure the property value has been set. Click. Oh my god, something going wrong. Okay. So it's all silly mistake. There are a couple of silly mistakes. The obvious reason, the reducer I have been calling this state, actually the state is available as an argument here. That's a stupid mistake though. Are there any errors like that? Any keyword doesn't work. Yes, we got a value added. Once you notice this, we get the state centrally managed. Nowhere we are having the state or props sent in between. If you see that the main, I'm not sending anything. All components are individually located. It has its own data sets. Only the state is coming from the Redux store. And also, when I get the students array. If you see, the ID is uniquely having some value, because the reason in the reducer I made sure the ID is with the, if at all when -1 is detected, it make sure it is getting a random value. Okay, so this is for add. If any values coming other than that, we can make it for edit. So that part we are going to work on it now. So let's go to the add edit. Add one more function for edit purpose. Okay, I think the same button is going to be the same. So let's put view all, go to view all, add one button over here. I'm going to name it edit. So when this button is called, we need to open the form with the values already pre-filled. So we already created a edit student call which goes for a form edit reducer. So this is where it comes. So here we need to make sure the values are preset, which is more or less same, but except few values which is coming from the property, the payload itself. So we are going to do a few things. So let me start from this part of the code. Let me call a create a function. For edit. Okay, instead we'll keep it in inline itself, because I need a object. This particular object I am depending on, so I'm going to add on click over here. So the function which it is going to execute. Okay. So see that this is a function, remember? So whenever on click is done, it is going to call start props edit student, going to send the payload of that entry. So whatever object being clicked, that will be a payload. So the action will have edit student, which will be carrying ID, first name, roll number, subject, everything will be coming here, and this is the place where we are going to do the edit one. Okay, so I'm going to extract everything this time. So just copy from, including the ID. Let it be the ID this time constant. I could have declared them as global, but I had, due to some reason, I declared them as local, so I had to make sure every time it gets a unique variable name. This time, the payload is going to have the required information. We have, and also get the copy of existing array. I'm not going to modify that. So then call the return statement with the new state. First thing, show form set to true so that the form becomes visible, and now call all values, first name, existing array should be passed on. Okay. Whenever edit called from the payload, it will extract all the required information, and of course this existing student value will be unmodified, a new state will be prepared and will be sent. Let's see. We have edit button. Let me add one more. Now we have entries, so if I'm going to click on this one, it is going to call, I think this props edit student is giving, it's not a function. Edit student is not a function, it is thinking why, because edit student is there, very well placed. Let me see, view all, edit student is part of it. Okay, I'm missing an argument here. There are a couple of mistakes. I'll also verify the other places whether the same mistake has got repeated. No, here it is perfect. Here everything is perfect. So this is a small mistake. I had to recreate everything now. So now we have. I'm going to click on this, the index 1. You see that when I click on edit, now the form is having the pre-filled value. It's ready for edit purpose. Why this thing has happened? Because the props are setting the edit student and goes to action here and finds the reducer, a block. It gets all the details from that particular item, and of course prepares a new state for it. The moment we set the show form set to true, the add edit form becomes visible and gets all the properties mapped here to this one. So I'm going to modify it and click save, but before that I have to expand the edit part of the code in order to take effect. Otherwise nothing, no change will take effect, because the ID we are checking -1. If any values are coming in, now we need to do the edit part of the code. So how we are going to do? First thing, we have to identify the index of the given array. So we have already discussed about this. So any name will give, get the array state dot students. In that array, find the index of the given ID. I hope we already discussed about it. Finding an index require a function like the way we do in array map. It is going to have a object instance also it requires a return state. So the object with the ID should match with the ID which we are getting here. So it's called ID 3. If it matches, now we'll have an index. Then change, or what we can do, since we know the index, we can splice it so that that particular entry is indexed entry is modified. For example, let me show you existing array splice. The first which from which index we are going to do that changes. So it's I'm passing the index. How many entry which needs to be deleted? 1. Instead of I want to add one more entry, that's exactly the one which I want to add here. So this exact the whole thing. Now array will have a updated value. Okay, updated array is here already here, so I'll just use the same name. Use the same name instead of it. Then the array entry will get updated and the new state will be passed. So let's try how things work. Okay, now I'm going to edit this one. Changing everything. When I click save, see the changed value being done here. So with edit, let me add one more entry then. You see that the entry is being created. You can modify it. See the value is being updated. So we, with just tiny little bit of the code, we could add the edit feature. So we have almost done now. We added option to fill the form and populate the list, and also we have given an option to edit. So the entry is being updated. Okay, add done, edit done, and only one we have the delete part. With that we can conclude our React Redux part of our learning. So let's add that also. I'm going to need one more button. I'm going to name it danger delete student. Name it as a delete. And we have a delete button also. So the delete, actually what it does, we have a delete student, which is the one we have called now, and it goes to the reducer handle delete. So it goes here, it comes here. Deleting is this part of the code alone, the splice part of the code alone. So nothing we do need to do much here. get the existing array. So get the ID alone. ID is more than enough to delete. So let me say ID is 5. This time will be coming from the action payload ID, because it is actually the delete carries the object, so it also has the ID also included. So all we require an ID. Then call the splice. Okay, we need to find the index again, of course. That means we can filter it out. So job is done. Instead of that, what you can do, the filter will produce a new array. So you can safely call it state.students filter. So function requires an argument, which is another function with a return statement. We are going to exclude the only one not having the ID of the given one. So object ID not equal to ID 5. Enough. So that particular array alone will be eliminated. The rest of the array will be there, and then we can finally return the new state. So form, of course, false, and the new entry, the updated array. Since copy paste, the twice is got copied. Okay, so the updated array will be having like, it would be filtered out a given ID. So whatever the left will be there in this array, and these are all the values will be kept to a default. The form will be still false. Okay, looks fine. We have various entries now. Of course, the edit is working. Let's see the delete this particular entry. I'm going to click yes. Of course, got deleted. First entry. Of course, the entries are getting deleted, and of course, we are also having this edit also working. So this complete form is like, it's pretty simple. Now we have put the React Redux put into work. So in this case, we have the state is managed centrally here within the React store, Redux store. Nowhere we are managing the state within our application. Everything is props now. And if you see that everywhere we are using props, because the states will be delivered as a props to the individual component thanks to map state to props, and whatever the functions of the given actions will be declared through the actions, and this could be done through map dispatch to prompt. So with combined together, a component is having access to the React Redux store. So Redux is managing the entire state, and of course it is emitting the new state, and wherever it is being dependent, this component will receive the update. So nowhere I am connecting. If you see that the app.js is simply main, and if you go to the main, if you see that just a function, we are not passing anything here. And when the user click on add edit, the rest of the thing starts to happen. So we have completed the entire CRUD part of our application. So now we can add a new entry, and of course from there we can uh, retrieve the list. Also we can edit it, so it's part of an update, and we can also delete it. So here the entire management is done through React Redux. So Redux we'll be using throughout our application going further. My next section of the task going to be on the React.js routing techniques. So I'm going to introduce, because so far what we have created, the entire view is done within the application itself. Every refresh happened here itself. What if we need to modify the path so that we can create URLs, and that can be loaded with a path? So the next part we are going to discuss on React routing, and of course I'll be using the Redux and store quite a bit going forward. Let us clean up this my reducer a bit. I had to introduce a lot of objects in between. So, uh, okay, the main reason why I had to do this, maybe we can still clean up. It, the reducers should always return a new instance of a state. Means the object should be new, and it's not something the same state we get and return it. I had to create a new state so that React identifies it. Okay, the state got changed. That's why you would have seen it every time when we try to append the array, we create a new copy of an array in order to have that particular list added with a new item. Similarly, every item's been taken and put into a new variable, and finally the entire state is returned. So the state could be of anything. In this example, we use this state, which is a JavaScript object. A state could be a typically FA, and it could be an integer, boolean, or anything. So I want to clean it a little bit so that, okay, so everything is depending on the four objects. So what I'm going to do, to declare here itself. Roll number and subject and ID. Okay, declare them there. Now the code looks somewhat pretty clean. Your objects have been declared outside. So these objects being taken out and of course mapped to the respective place. So we'll have to make sure everything works as expected as still. Okay. So we could edit, works. Also we can delete it. So everything works. So we just clean the code a little bit in order to make sure everything looks fine. So what we understand on the Redux point of view, the new state what we return should always having a new objects, and so that it identifies the properties getting need of the properties getting updated, because only when it identifies there is a significant changes in the properties or props, in terms the state is being delivered as a props to the components. So when considerable amount of changes is there in the state, only things will take effect. That's why in the reducer we are always returning a new state, as you notice here. So in this example we used this object, for example, state carrying one boolean and one number and three strings and one array. But according to your application requirement, it could be different. It could be you might be required to have multiple reducers also. We also gave an option like, so if you have multiple reducers, you can even combine them using combined reducer option, so that the entire application is aware of the state or required state. So this is a simple example on how we can make use of React Redux put into work, so that the entire CRUD operations start working our React application.